folks, I'm Vasel here, and today we're going to talk about why I love Arcadia Quest. Arcadia Quest is not that old of a game. When I first remember the first time I played Arcadia Quest, and I had gone to CMON-Con, or back then it was called Cool When You're Not Convention, and it's something I'm actually at this week. But when I went there, I said, you know, I'm going to check it out, but they don't really have a lot of games that I'm interested in. They were mostly miniatures games. They had Zombicide. I'm not a huge Zombicide guy. I just didn't think that there was a lot. And they said, hey, there's this new game here that's about to come out called Arcadia Quest. I said, all right, lots of cool miniatures. I'll try it out. I fell in love with it on the spot. I played it many times since. And it's one of my favorite games. And I'm here to tell you today why. First of all, I said it's a miniatures game. Now, some people say you shouldn't be swayed by plastic, but I tend to like plastic figures. I like the plastic figures, the moving them around. I like it better than cardboard stand-ups. And this game has a ton of plastic in it. Now, they're done in the chibi style, which means the head is usually like one half the body, or maybe a little bit less, but still pretty giant heads. And at first I was like, this is kind of weird, but as time goes by, I like it. It has a little bit of a cute feeling to it. It's fun. You never take Arcadia Quest that seriously because of how silly and cute everything looks in it. And I like the theme overall of the game. It looks like a typical dungeon crawl, but it's not. You're going in and you are basically hitting the monsters to get money so that you can get farther, but it's all about attacking other players. You each have your band of 3 adventurers who's going to go into this dungeon. They're going to fight back and forth, hit one another, and attack each other all the time. And this is very lighthearted fun. You're in my way, get out! I get points for that, and I enjoy that theming a lot. The game has a lot of diversity too. There's a lot of different characters for this, and they're all there. This character has a different ability than this one, but it's simple. I never have to sit there the whole time and try to remember what everything does. There's a lot of different weapons in this game. There's a lot of different monsters and stuff, but they all have cards for them. They're easy to set by. They're easy to pick up and look at. And once you figure out how the base system of this game works, it's not that complex. The original rulebook probably could have been better, but it does explain the rules, and I'm not constantly flipping through it knowing how to do everything because, hey, this monster activates, and the monsters, again, are kind of like these dumb things that walk around, which normally I wouldn't want. I want to fight smart, interesting monsters, but the monsters are kind of just there as a moving barrier between you and the other players who are your true enemy. I mentioned the game is colorful and bright. It really is. Not just the miniatures, but all the pieces. It's colorful. You come and look at it. There's a lot of doom and gloom, especially from the same company that made Zombicide, in games these days. And sometimes I just want to play in a bright, colorful Candyland-style playground. That's all superfluous, really. The thing that I really enjoy about the game is the combat itself. Now, combat's different in many different games. You roll dice. Maybe the opponent rolls defense. That's how this works. I roll attack, you roll defense. But this game has exploding dice. On one side of all the dice, there's an exploding symbol, which is always a hit. There's also ranged and melee. Range is easier than melee, but melee, of course, melee is easier than ranged, but range can be done from a distance. It's easy, simple combat system. But when you roll that exploding die, it's an automatic hit, and then you can roll it again. Which means, and it happens on defense too, I could get a block and roll again, which means no matter what, the weakest person always has a chance, no matter how slight that chance is, to beat the biggest, baddest character, and also defend against the biggest, baddest character. And that doesn't happen. Law of averages work out for the most part, but it happens occasionally. And when it happens, it's a glorious moment, and I love glorious moments in the games that I play. So that's a lot of fun for me. The combat system is all simple. Hey, I roll 3 dice, you roll 2 dice, and you get 1 re-roll. And that's, there's just a lot of simplicity in how all the weapons work. And I like how the gameplay itself works, right? In a sense that you have these different characters. Each character can have 4 pieces of equipment. You activate a piece of equipment to use it. So I have different weapons. I activate this weapon to use it. And so if I want on my turn, I can just rest and do nothing. But because I'm activating one character and doing an action or resting, that's simple. It's easy. I take an action, you 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 take an action, and we just go around the table very quickly, and it all comes together in a very smooth system where it never feels like there's a lot of downtime in the game. And your character can get killed, and they will just basically respawn the next time you rest. And there's some negative penalties that will be applied to the next mission, but it's not too terrible. And the game doesn't ever feel unbalanced, like, oh, well, my best fighter's out. No, he's just out temporarily. He can come back in. The game is a campaign-based system, but it's a short one. Most campaign-based systems are quite long. This one is very deliberately 5 missions long. Each one takes about an hour, maybe 90 minutes. That's not a huge amount of time to take. And when you're finished with one, you get the equipment for the next one. You're like, wow, this equipment's so much better. And oh, this equipment's better. And the equipment, the way they have the pricing of the equipment, where the really good equipment is a lot more expensive than the decent equipment. And so you might buy some decent equipment and you don't get a lot of money in one mission. You do pretty poorly. But at the same time, you can say, hey, I still don't feel like I'm that far behind. And I feel like the game kind of self-balances till you get to that final mission, the final confrontation. And there might be one overall winner, but different people have won and done glorious things at different points throughout the mission, throughout the campaign. And the campaign is not the kind of like, well, we finished that campaign, we can never play it again. No, you can play it again. You can pick any mission you want as a one-off, standing-off point. And I find that very fun and fascinating. I like the missions that show up in each thing where there's different cards. And hey, you need to accomplish this, you need to go kill this big guy here, you need to do this. But there's always a card that says, kill someone on the blue team, kill someone on the yellow team. And that's enjoyable for me. That's a lot of fun that the game is deliberately promoting getting in other people's faces. And so the whole thing is a nice story-filled package. Not because the story behind it, I don't even know what's going on half the time. But I do remember that time when I threw a fireball at the one guy and he managed to block it and then send it back and kill one of my guys. Or the time that I went in, no hope, and swung at the monster and managed to slay it. Stuff like that is great stories that you can tell. And this has a lot of what I call stand-up moments where one person stands up, everyone's like standing up. This one die roll could be a huge thing. I don't agree with everything that has happened with Arcadia Quest. There's a lot of exclusives from the Kickstarter campaigns that are not easy for everyone to get. There's a lot of extra stuff. You do not need them, though. The game is super fun without them. But if you're a completionist, that would be problematic, I'm sure. The game comes unpainted, but for me, it doesn't bother me as much. I've had some of my stuff painted, so there's that. But even when it's not painted, because the figures are so detailed, the quality of the miniatures is so good, it doesn't matter that much. And overall, I love it. I played a lot. There's some expansions. Inferno, which I thought was okay, but Pets, which is an amazing, fun expansion where now each team has a pet that goes around and fights or helps them fight to some degree. Silly fun. Every time I play this, I come out of it thinking, wow, that was so entertaining. Again, you'll notice that in the games that I love, that's the one feature I put above everything else. Sure, this game may not be a game that people will write books about the strategy, but this is a game that if you look up fun in the dictionary, a picture of this game is there. That's Arcadia Quest.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.